Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 3, Meek and Humble of Heart. So, there's this awesome scene in the Gospel of Luke right before Jesus enters Jerusalem for his passion, death, and resurrection. It's where this blind man, he calls out to Jesus and he shouts, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." And the people around him, they get super annoyed with what he's doing. And so they try to quiet him down. They basically tell him to shut up and go in the corner. But their words, their efforts, they only cause this guy to get louder. So the blind man, he calls Jesus the son of David. Have you ever really examined the phrase that he uses to get Jesus' attention? It's amazing. So the blind man, he says, "Jesus, son of David," because he wants Jesus to know that he knows that Jesus is God. He's literally saying Jesus, son of David, appealing to his divinity. Maybe in the language that we would use would be like, "Hey, I know you're God." That would be the opening phrase. But it's not the only thing he says. He doesn't just say, "Jesus, son of David," acknowledging his divinity. He says, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me," which means he's saying, "Hey, I know you're God, and I need you to take care of something." So he's appealing to Jesus' divinity and his compassion. By saying, "Have mercy on me," he's saying that he knows Jesus is going to heal him, or he believes at least that Jesus is going to heal him if Jesus it has two things happen. One, if Jesus has the literal power to do it. And two, if Jesus cares enough to do it. If his heart is moved to such compassion that he's going to stop whatever he's doing and pay attention to this blind guy screaming in the corner at him. But the thing is, I think, at least in my reading, in my prayer, in my reflection of it, he's also afraid. Right? Like, he's afraid that Jesus is going to ignore him, that his chance to see again is going to pass him by. He's going to be ignored by Jesus like he's been ignored his entire life. So he shouts and he shouts and he shouts. He's trying not to be ignored. And in a way, the opening line of the Litany of Humility is trying to do the exact same thing with the words, "O Jesus, meek and humble of heart." Now, even though this is not the language of the modern person, it's a very human way to call out to God. Because intellectually, you and me and the author, we may know that Jesus is generous and he's kind and he's meek and he's humble and he's merciful and he's all this stuff. But it's one thing to know it intellectually and another thing to believe it and to live like it's true. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to hide things from God, to hide parts of myself from him. Even though he's God and he knows everything, I still irrationally try and hide things from him because I'm afraid of how he might respond. I've read in the scriptures, all right? I have read the gospels, and I know that Jesus has a part of him that can be pretty darn harsh with people. He can call them broods of vipers, deceitful, hypocrites. He could go into their spot and flip their tables. I've read about God's justice. And I know how awful it is to experience justice over mercy. And you know what? So did that author, and so did that blind man. So with meek and humble of heart, the author is basically saying, Jesus, bring your compassion, not your justice. Bring your divinity, but not your justice. And please, whatever you do, don't pass me by. It's like through this prayer, we're calling Jesus on the phone. And we're hoping, there could be, Jesus could be in lots of different moods and different parts of him could come to the phone. And we're begging the merciful and generous part of him to be the one who picks up the phone. Not table flipping, harsh rebuking, even intellectual teaching Jesus. We don't want any of those parts of him to pick up. We want compassionate Savior Jesus. So the writer says, Jesus, I know you can condemn me. I know you could judge me harshly. And I know you would be just in doing both. I know you could even ignore me because you're God and I'm not. But please don't do any of that. Instead, see me. See that I'm in a place of need. See that I'm vulnerable and I'm going to ask something of you and that I'm nervous to ask it of you. So be gentle. In other words, the author of this prayer is trying everything that he can to get to a place of total transparency and authenticity with Jesus. And his condition for being transparent is that it's merciful Jesus who comes to the table. The author really wants to share their whole heart with Jesus, but fear is making it difficult. So he's like, all right, I'm going to share everything I'm going to share, provided merciful Jesus comes to the table. And the author is encouraging us to do the same thing. So the point of today isn't to question which Jesus is going to show up. The point of it, actually, I know I said a lot about how Jesus is going to show up, but the point of it is not actually to question how Jesus is going to show up. The point is to examine what part of ourself or what emotion or what fear is telling us to hold something back. Like, what condition do I have to bring my full, authentic self before God right now? And so, as we'll try and do every day, bring your compassionate curiosity and examine your interior resistance to being totally transparent with God, and wonder why it is and where it comes from. Now, if you want to hash this out one-on-one, you can. I'd be happy to connect with you. Just send me a note at any time throughout this whole pilgrimage, jack@thecatholicmentor.com. I'll see you tomorrow when we make our first request of Jesus. Until then, may God bless you.